And welcome to a first test of a live stream. I want to say hello to everybody and give you a chance to basically sit there and figure out what we have going on here. Just very quickly, yeah. So let's go ahead and try. Yeah. For those of you who are wondering who I am, I'm Captain Kusiak. I'm the President and CEO of Westwind Virtual Airlines. And underneath this, you'll see that I'm going to give you a little bit of routing and stuff like that. So let's get started with the aircraft very quickly, and we'll basically sit there and get underway. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started with the aircraft. From the front, if you take a look at what we've got here, we'll go ahead and go underneath. On a Cessna, where the starting or where the beginning is usually here at the main door. Okay, and what we're looking at on the side of the aircraft itself is we're looking for wrinkles in the skin of the aircraft. We want to check the passenger door to make sure that the passenger door is correctly or correctly secured. And what we'll do is we'll sit there and we'll take a look at our empennage, and we're going to take a look at the stabilizer, or the rear stabilizer. Take some time, go around, and what we're looking at is we're looking at the hinges on the stabilizer itself. Yeah. And what we'll do is we'll basically work our way around real quick. This is a general walk around on an aircraft. You walk them all like this. So at the end of the deal, you have a Cessna, if you will, and we're going to walk up to the front end, and we're going to basically take a look at the trailing edge, rock around the wing. Want to make sure that the wingtip or the wingtip is good to go, and of course we're going to walk down toward the engine mount. Yeah, roughly. So you kind of get the idea where we're at here. Yeah. Now obviously in the simulator we cannot sit there and basically do what do the whole thing. So we can't simulate the actual checkout of the aircraft, but that's what it is. What we have in a pre-flight inspection is we're looking at all the documents. AARO, that's the airworthiness, radio operator's permit, and your weight and balance stuff and everything like that. They should be on board in the aircraft. That hasn't changed, although you're not required to have a radio license anymore. Used to be that the Federal Communications Commission, the FCC, would require a radio operator's permit, and that permit was normally carried in the plane. So without that, let's go ahead and sit here and open the door if we can. I think we're set with the pause. Okay, so Going back outside the aircraft. So underneath, what we would be doing is we would be coming up and looking at the door. And I'm a little bit taller than that, but yeah. So you kind of get the idea. We transition into the aircraft. And leaving the door open. We'd basically go through and make sure that the control wheels are not, or control locks are stored. In some aircraft, there is a control lock that basically slips through the yoke to lock the yoke in place, and that control lock is basically removed and stowed usually in the side flap here in the door. Anyway, ignition switch will be off, and if you take a look at ours, the ignition switch would be off. Avionics would be off. Avionics switches would be off. The alternator switch would be off. Master switch is on. Put the master switch on, and what we're going to do is we're going to check what the gas is and everything like that. Fuel quantity would be checked. Flaps would be got down. You know, what we're doing is we're basically cycling the flaps down, and this is done as a pre-check, or yeah. So what happens is with the flaps down all the way, you now are able to basically sit there and check the rails, and that's the reason why we're doing that. So fuel quantity would be checked, everything would be set, master switch would be turned back off. We don't want to sit there and drain our battery. And we would have a Hobbs meter check. In this aircraft, we would take a look at the Hobbs meter to make sure that we know what it is. Hobbs intact, and we do the external walk around, which is completed at this point. So with that said, when you take a look at the outside of the aircraft with the flap levers and with the flaps down, you can now come in and actually check the flap rails to make sure that these rails are secure. It's what is it? They're Fuller flaps, which is a type of flap that basically sits there and gives you a heck of a lot of deployed flap surface, if you will, with a very small flap, so to speak. But in Fowler flaps, you do need to check these rails to make sure that they're holding properly, because if they fail, the whole flap will fail, and that's not a good thing. You want to sit there, and you also want to check the ailerons and stuff like that. You want to take a look and see the elevators, and of course the rudders and everything like that. We'll check that stuff later. The passenger briefing, what do we have? Alright, so let's go ahead and get back in the aircraft here very quickly. Let's talk about this and figure out what we're going to do. The idea is to depart on 20 left. Okay, we're going to depart on 20 left, doing a 15-degree climb out, or a 15-degree off the mark, and basically take ourselves out and depart the field. We'll come back over the middle of the airfield and picking up our on course, steering to the northwest and carrying out over the water. And at that particular point, we'll turn north up the coast, and we're going to fly up to approximately the Queen Mary, descending to 2,500 feet to enter the VFR flyway that goes over the top of LAX and allows us to basically sit there. At that particular point, we will enter a very quick right downwind for landing on runway 24 right at Los Angeles International Airport. Seats and seat belts should be adjusted. We'll have brakes tested and set. The brakes are set. Avionics switch is off. Avionics master is off. And fuel selection is set to both. Okay, so we're ready to basically do a pre-start at this particular point. Carb heat's cold. Throttle should be open 1/2 or 1/4. We'll make the mixture full rich. Turn the master switch on. We'll put our beacon light on. And yes, let's go ahead and start. And with the startup, we're good to go. Go ahead and I can take pauses, and I got to figure that pausing out. So, yeah, obvious mistakes. Put the flaps back up. Okay, I'm going to go to the right here. Alright, so we'll take a look at it. Throttle 8 to 1,000. We're looking at oil pressure. Basically, we're looking for everything to be in the green. Everything appears to be in the green. Maybe put the alternator on. Give us some nav lights in this particular instance here, and we're set. That's going to have to be checked. I got to figure out how to get that thing turned off. So anyway, what we're doing is we're just live streaming to do this. The content will be, or what we're hoping to be, is just specific things, possible training, maybe something along the lines of understanding or learning how to fly. I think that would be something that would be interesting to have or interesting to see. Basically going through and doing this.
It would have been, you want some water?
This is the taxiway, by the way, that made Harrison Ford famous in aviation. He overflew a 730 or a 737. He overflew a 737-800 that was ready to, or waiting to take off on the left taxiway, and was basically sitting on this taxiway that's coming up. And yeah, kind of an ugly thing, but when you look at this from the air, it's not hard to see or not hard to really understand what the issue was or why it's such a big issue. Aircraft was sitting at the hold bar right here. Yeah. And you kind of get the idea of what's going on. Alright. Pitot heats on and off. Left both, right both, and de-ice and pitot on, off. Turn the strobe lights and landing lights on. Let's go. I want to bug this up so that I've got it right. Alright, let's go. And we're rolling. Rotate about 70 knots. Got airspeeds alive. And 70 knots. Drop the nose a little bit. Allow it to pick up some speed. Yeah, probably not a good idea. So what we're going to do is we're just going to make this a pattern work real quick, and we're going to come back in. Well, that didn't sound good. It's a lot of frickin' flap. Yeah, a little bit of a foul up, but okay. That's pretty good. Okay. Alright. And this is the taxiway right here. The runway we landed on was the runway Harrison Ford was supposed to land on. And he landed on this taxiway instead. And if you loop back or basically check back on the deal or on the playback or a little bit earlier, concentrate on the taxiway and what it looks like as you're coming in, and you can see how it can be confused. It's not as clear. This is not a big airport. It's a little postage stamp, and things are tightly packed here, compacted. So, yeah. So, very nice setup here. Very quick. Few problems here and there. And, yeah. Now that's going to be a showstopper to have the sound cut out. So, few things that I found out. See how it looks on the rebroadcaster when it's uploaded or when it's published. So that's it. So I want to thank you guys for coming in. We're going to go ahead and cut this out, and we'll talk at you later. Thanks for joining me on the first official stream. So